Welcome to Artcasters episode 434, where we have special guest Gary Hodges. And we're going to talk tonight about Gary and Scott did a show. But before we jump into that, let's introduce ourselves. You can find my stuff at CoreyKerr.com. I got a book that I'm serializing live, chapter by chapter. And I got an upcoming comic that'll come out whenever I finish writing it and start drawing those pages. And if you want to see those things, you can go to CoreyKerr.com/email. Scott, where can we find your stuff?
You can find my stuff on my YouTube channel, search Circworks Art Labs on YouTube, where you will find videos. I'm taking old ephemera and crazy stuff from the 70s, 80s, and 90s and reinterpreting it, putting my own unique spin on it. And then I've got a back catalog of how to make comic stuff on there, too, that you can also check out. Also a website, circworks.com, where you can find my digital products for making comics. And then I've got a bunch of stuff that I got physical and digital stuff. So I've got physical, prints and things like that. But what I have right now are wax packs, and uploaded a few new ones that I brought to the show that we're going to mention. So if you're interested in that, vintage style wax packs of things that they never made wax packs of, you can check that out on my website.
Cool. And Gary, where can we find your stuff?
You can find my stuff right here at this link, my Etsy shop. I encourage you, if you're on the fence about getting a book, you should probably get it now, because I'm about to update my inventory numbers after the show we're going to be talking about, and I hardly have anything left. So now's the time to move. I got to do another print order soon. You can also find me here on YouTube under my name, Gary Hodges, and you'll know it's me because the icon is a dinosaur gobbling up an alien.
And that link is in the description of this video as well. So cool. All right. So now I got to scroll and find that. Great. And we've got Keeman and Dylan, and you and I are also in there. So, and Mydrin. So welcome everybody in the chat. Feel free to jump in with any questions that you've got. So tell us what this thing is, what you guys just did, and how it went.
Yeah, and also I guess we should mention that Josh is not here tonight. I missed the message, so I don't know what he's up to something. So, but he'll be back.
I think Josh was the late post sacrifice of the art retreat is what happened. So
yes,
okay.
Yeah. The blood god must be satisfied. No, yes. I think he had day job obligations.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so I Gary and I did a little local con, and it's kind of it was like a one night event, but it was a little different. So I thought it'd be fun to just talk our experience with it, maybe talk about what we liked about it, if there's anything maybe we didn't like about it, talk about the I don't know if I'd say organization, but the people that are putting it on, as far as some of the other events that they're doing, what they're trying to do, basically. So the event was it's called Cocktails and Comics, and as you can probably guess for the name, it was a little different. It wasn't all ages event, so you didn't have to obviously be 21 to go there, but they did have a bar set up and everything, and it was just a little bit of a different comic experience, a very small con, but I don't know, I really kind of like the vibe of it, and so I guess we can start. I guess we can kind of start there. I'll start there with. I definitely like the vibe of it. We can get into a little more, kind of how we did, how we felt about, whatever. But I don't know, what was your I guess overall impression, Gary?
I thought it was great. So actually, this might be a good time to do the video.
Yeah,
if someone wants to add it. It was fairly small. This was. Let's see here. Yeah, this was. It's a gallery. So this event took place in a place called Foundry. It's like a hotel in Central Phoenix. And is it frozen?
Did it freeze or did it stop?
It did freeze. There's a little. Let's try again. It was kind of a little gallery. They had an exhibit going on kind of behind that by. I didn't realize it at the time, but all the photographs were by the Diamondbacks, Randy Johnson. I guess he's doing photography now, so he had kind of his photography was on display there behind everyone's booth.
I didn't realize that was Randy.
Yeah. Well, I looked online and I saw a picture of Mike Ness from Social Distortion. I'm like, what? And it said Randy Johnson. And I'm like, what is that? What do those two things have to do with each other? But I guess he did some photography of like musicians and things like that. So
is the video totally broken, not working?
I have a play bar that is showing up on the screen.
Yeah, I see the same. Here, let me try.
Yeah, let me. Why don't you remove it and then let's try to re-upload it. So while you're doing that, it was a small venue, a little bit. Maybe you said it was in a hotel, like maybe it was like one of those.
Kind of a I don't know, for lack of a better word, kind of a hipster style hotel. It was kind of it was probably an older hotel that they renovated. It was really cool. Had a kind of a cool vibe to it. And with that came a lot of things that I kind of enjoyed about the space and the con itself. But the space was really cool, kind of a different, because I was thinking when I heard it was at a hotel, I just thought it was going to be like, you go to these ballrooms and then they've got the little partition things that open up and it's kind of the same thing. And I'm like, this was a little different. So
what was different about it? Because that looks like one of those spaces that just kind of is where you'd have like a conference or something.
Yeah, it was that, but I guess because how would you describe the kind of the feel of the hotel? I guess, Gary.
It is. I thought your word. I understand your reluctance, but it was fair. It is a kind of a hipster Central Phoenix, which that's sort of redundant. Central Phoenix is a little hipster, but it is. I don't know how to elaborate on that. It's funky colors. It's a very creative and art themed hotel where they have, like, for example, right where you check in, there's a vintage cigarette machine that has been repurposed to distribute zines. So
I didn't see that.
Yeah. So it's that gives kind of tells you everything you need. They had.
And that wasn't for the show. That's just what the hotel does.
That's just they have it. Yeah, so it's that kind of thing. Now they have this hotel, Foundry, has some sort of connection to Arizona Comic Books Arts Festival historically. It seems like anytime there's a comic book arts festival, they'll have drink and draws at Foundry. I'm not clear on exactly what the relationship is, but there's something.
Right.
So this was a very short, I think it was a 5-hour show from 6 to 11 p.m. It was, as you pointed out, it wasn't 21 and up only, but it was very much like a cocktail and comic event. And my impression, now we didn't really talk afterward about how it went, but I felt like he did, especially compared to the last ASCAP we went to, a really good job promoting, because even though it's not like it was swamped, my experience was everyone there was an enthusiast.
Yeah.
And this sounds like a crazy thing to say, but I feel like everybody I talked to bought something. Like there was almost no one who talked to me and just kind of like, cool, and wandered off. Like virtually every person I talked to ended up buying something, and ended up buying all 3 of the 3 books I was selling, which was crazy. It was far closer to my experience of the very first ASCAP, where I just felt like everyone there was a comic nerd, and therefore, like, they were into it. It was great for me.
So me too. And I so first when it first started, and I think this is just kind of the nature of this kind of thing, because it's probably kind of fashionably late type of thing. When it's not like a typical convention. There's usually people waiting to get in. This wasn't like that. People kind of, at first it was a little bit slow, and I think it was, and I think it was a lot of people that were just either hotel guests or people in the area that was like, oh, this is a cool thing, not necessarily not as familiar with comics, but there were people that kind of came through just like to check it out. Oh, what's this? And even with that, you get people that are that oh, that's interesting, and are you sure? Yeah, I'll check this out or whatever. So it kind of started out like that, and then it did start as the night went went on. And like I said, it was only a 5-hour show, so it wasn't like this big lull for an hour or whatever. But then gradually people started to come in, and people that were kind of into comics. And I remember, I know Ryan Cody, who we've had on the show, who's behind who put this event together. He said, please share about this, because even though they're spending a lot of money on Facebook ads and things like that, who knows how effective they are and everything.
Right.
And kind of got the impression that last time around they had some problems getting the word out or whatever. So
yeah. Well, and a lot of the other problem was competition that weekend. Also, I'm sorry if you already mentioned it, but I felt like I left out an important thing. It was free.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Free for
us. But like anyone could walk in, and since it was just off the lobby, it was real, which was also off the restaurant, off the bar. Like anyone could just sort of wander in. Like there was no cover price. It was all being covered by our table fees, and I assume a cut of the very expensive comic themed cocktails.
Yeah, I would hope so. I would. Yeah. But I mean, as far as cocktails go, So I mean, they do kind of cost a premium, but I don't. Based on that, I mean, I guess I can go into that now. That was one thing that I did, and because I did get actually, I haven't even. My girlfriend hasn't asked me to pay her back yet, so I guess I haven't paid anything for the cocktails yet. But the idea was, I was just going to go there, have a good time, have a drink or two, and I knew that would kind of cut into it. But surprisingly, downtown, we found a parking space. We didn't have to pay anything for parking. So, and the fee for the table was like $35.
It was cheap.
Super cheap. So because of that, I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot to make a profit and everything. And like I said, I also got food there, which I really like, because I mean, I think I paid $16, or again, I think Jen got it, but like $16 for a meal. And I mean, you could easily pay that for like a crappy hamburger or a hot dog or something at a regular convention. And the thing I got was like, because they had like a little deli set up there, and there's a restaurant, so I got like this Mediterranean bowl with like quinoa and like falafel and olives and chicken and everything, and it was really good, filling, and it was probably like $16, which is also probably the cost of the cocktail.
I got like the veggie and rice bowl, and it was about the same, 15. I mean, it's for people, it was Central Phoenix economy, so it was yes, way better than anything you'd get for $15 at like the Phoenix Fan Fusion. But then also, because you're just off the lobby and the restaurant is on the opposite end, they gave you like, those numbers that you get to put on your table for them. You put it on your booth, and like they bring in your food at your table. It was kind of awesome.
Yeah, and there were some other cool things too. So the distributor for Santan Brewery, which is a brewery out in the far East Valley, there was a representative from the brewery that came by, and he had like shots of whiskey and stuff, and some other weird drink that they brought by. So and there was, I only saw it once, but it looked like there was a waitress coming around too. Did you see that? I thought unless maybe they were just coming to collect the glasses. Maybe that's
probably
what it was.
To collect. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the bus.
But yeah, it was kind of cool, and the branding was kind of cool. The cocktails I got like the Human Torch, was kind of like a spicy whiskey, had like a real spicy thing, and I got a Poison Ivy, which had it was like green chartreuse and something else. And I mean, and I was both Jen and I were both, because we got the same thing. Yeah, and I drank most of that too. We both decided to pump the brakes about halfway into it, because they made them strong. So even though it was like Central Phoenix economy, again, like a $15 cocktail, it was stout. I kind of was like, okay, I gotta ease up on this, because I've got 5 hours to sell. Yeah, and there was definitely at least one patron that you could kind of tell that maybe had a few of those. Yeah. So you do get that kind of get that, but all in all, it was I don't know. I thought it was a really cool vibe. It was just kind of laid back, and and people generally come by and they were interested in, like I said, in comics. And I think that's the main thing. And if we do get into talking about what kind of our perfect show might look like, I think we would both agree that it's kind of comic centric. So here's the video. We can kind of take a look. I don't.
Yeah,
know if
I was just trying to begin while we were
Looks like it's
talking to see
working,
if
yeah.
it'll.
Yeah.
So Samurai Comics is probably the biggest comic book store chain in Arizona. I'll have something to talk about with that. And this is when people are setting up and everything. But you can see it's a small room, you know, small tables and everything. But again, a 6-hour show. So,
Yeah.
But I don't know, Gary, based on that video, anything you wanted to add to that?
Here, I'm pulling that. Let me think. Yeah, it was interesting. I think I told you this, if not the day before, hours before.
Yeah.
That I did not know what to expect from this. And
Right.
I told Mary, she was asking, like, are you excited, you know, about this? And I was like, I don't know. Like, because I don't know. I felt like it could go either way. There could be nobody there, you know, or just like kind of buzzed people wandering through and just looking at things and not buying, or it could go great. I don't know. But my main thinking was it's inexpensive.
Yeah.
And because I know the ASCAP show is, for lack of a better term, juried a little bit, I just wanted to stay in the mix. So it's, if he has an event, like, I want to participate and I want to promote, you know, because I know I want to go to the main event in March. So it's like, I want to continue to be like on his radar and promoting and being there and supporting it. So
yeah,
I was relieved and pleased when it went well. I can share I'm going to share my what my booth looked like.
Yeah, and I can show what mine looked like too.
It was very simplistic. I've been talking about rolling out. Actually, yes, someone else is going to have to share it because it looks like I don't have that power. But there it is. I had talked about using this to experiment with some new table layouts, some new signage. I'm still toying with the idea of like maybe some sort of animated sign or something like that. And I just ended up way too busy with day job, and I just like didn't have time for it. It's like, you know what, it's fine. I'm just going to go with stuff I have. So it was pretty minimal. I had the 3 books. I had stickers. The one thing I did a little differently this time, and I'm still processing. We talked about it a little bit at the show. I was selling the books for $10 each. Normally I do all 3 for like $25. So you save a little bit of money if you buy all 3. This time, because I'm at the end of a print order and in a way the books have already paid for themselves a few times over at this point, I was like, let me just see. I just want to experiment with pricing. I'm going to do $10 each, or basically buy 2, get 1 free. We'll do all 3 for $20 and see how that goes. Now, it's hard to know what the takeaway from this should be. I like I said, I sold great. Like it was pretty much, I was selling and complete sets all night long. I sold complete sets all night long, except for 2 sales. 2 sales were individual comics. All the rest were all 3. As soon as I said, well, I'm doing $10 each or all 3 for $20, every time it's like, I'll just take all 3.
Yeah. How could you not, really?
How can you not? But I don't know. There's 3 possible takeaways from that. One is that's the sweet spot for pricing. Another is, B is, it's an enthusiast crowd and they would have bought them for $25. Like, who knows, you know? And C is maybe all the above, or hard to say. The problem is selling them at that amount. It's fine when I'm at the tail end of a print order, and like I said, I've already made a bunch of money back. But that's not something that can't be my new norm. Like, I can't really, like, it's getting really thin on the margins if I start selling 3 for $1.
The problem, Gary, is that you're not kickstarting your book. If you're
I'm
kickstarting
not
your book,
kickstarting my book.
if you're
Well,
kickstarting your book, then you get if you fund enough, you order extra copies, and it's pure profit after that.
it's true.
You don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and then you
I
can sell them for $20.
I well, aside from Kickstarter, which is, I have to admit, like a journey I'm not ready to go on yet. I feel like there's two paths for me. One, and I think we talked about this in the chat, in one of the chats. We have a few group chats going, or maybe we talked about it in person and in a chat. I don't remember. Go back to the 25 for 3 pricing, but sweeten the deal with like stickers or bookmarks or both.
Yeah.
Like, so there's more perceived value, even though like that stuff doesn't really cost me much. Like, you feel like,
Right. That's kind of what I was with my comic books, and I probably could have still. I had different price points, and I pull mine up in a minute. But so with my comics, I sell mine are just single issues. They're not oversized like yours, like 20 pages, 21 pages. And I sell them for like $5. And again, I ran Kickstarter, so everything's paid for. That anything I sell is pure profit, minus all the time I went into the book. So theoretically, I probably don't make any profit because there was so much time. But I don't. When you're doing indie
right?
comics,
If you figure, you can't count your time. You can't.
Right.
There's just none of it makes sense if you're counting for your time.
Right. So with that aside, yeah. So, but what I was doing with mine was it was still the $5. If I had 5 books for 25, which no savings there, but then I had 3D print and then another smaller print, which is basically like a little thing that says like zombie threat level, and it's got a thing you can cut out and like threat level high or whatever, plus 3D glasses and everything. So there was just a little extra, but I could easily take that down to 20, and that probably would have done better for me. Because like you said, I think $20 is a sweet spot, which, my other things, well, I guess I can pull mine. Do you want to, is there more you want to go into with yours?
You mean in terms of like my pricing?
No, well, I guess we'll just stay on yours before I pull up my picture, because we got your picture.
Okay.
So
Yeah, let me
because I have some comments too. So yeah.
Just I do find, I think $20 isn't. This is the problem. I think 20 is very attractive because I believe, I can't back this up with research or anything, but I believe that is a good. Anything more than 20 is an extra psychological hurdle.
Yeah.
Like the idea, especially when it was mostly cash that I was doing. And
really, see, that's unusual, because I always go to the bank and I take out like $100 in change, and I didn't dip into that change at all. Most of it was I think I had a couple cash transactions, and they paid exact amounts, and the other was all credit card.
Well, I think I would have gotten more credit cards if it was 25, because 25 is a funny amount.
Yeah.
Like if you pulled money out of an ATM, you have at least a 20. Yeah. That's like an easy. I think there was something, and I think that was it lubricated the whole process to have an easy amount like that, 20. Which again, I can't really do that normally, but I think I suspect that's part of it. But anyway, the other potential solution. And this is something I talked about on the phone with Jim Lujan today. He has always been, and I wanted to get your guys' take. Speaking of psychological effect, he's always had the opinion, he's mentioned this to me many times, that he thinks my books as floppies, the fact they're floppies, it kind of devalues them in some way.
I would agree.
He's pushed for like perfect bound. Now, it wouldn't cost me that much more, and I'm beginning to wonder, would that increase the perceived value?
I think so. Yeah.
So that's something. What I might do, rather than think like, oh, I'll throw in stickers and bookmarks and all these other things, or I'll worry about cheaper pricing. Stickers are very cheap. I can do stickers. But maybe now that I'm almost ready for a reprint, maybe as a test, this next run, I'll do perfect bound of all 3, not combined.
Together? Okay, so I'm curious as to why not combine. Not because If your
I
total
looked
thing is
into
going to
it.
be 3, if you're doing 6 issues total, why not make a 3-issue combination, 2 3-issue combinations?
I looked into doing a trade of the first three because I thought about part one, part two,
Hmm.
and the printing costs would require a Kickstarter,
Okay.
and I'm like I wouldn't be ready to psychologically tackle that until I get done drawing the next one, which I'm just about to start. So I
Okay.
know that like that's not happening anytime soon. So what I can do easily in the meantime, like it's the same print file. I would just send the same print file and just pick perfect rather than saddle stitched.
Yeah.
It would increase the price slightly, but not dramatically. But it's arguable, I guess, that there would be a greater perceived value in the book, and I could get away with, you know, not necessarily
Absolutely,
charging more,
because
but not charging less.
yeah, your books are big enough where they can be perfect bound. Obviously, mine can't. And the way they are now, you might, I mean, you can kind of tell if you're familiar enough, you can kind of tell that they're thicker than the average comic.
Yeah.
But if they were perfect bound, I would think that would make a little bit clearer because somebody might come by and say $20. You know, comics sometimes are around $5 when,
Right.
I mean, or
Right.
$10. Sorry, $10
Yeah.
when, but I mean, that's still a value for your book because of the number of pages and everything. Because it's not a graphic novel, but it's definitely a lot more than
Right. I
the
mean,
floppy.
some of them are like 50 plus pages.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's like it could totally get away with the square binding. But anyway, in terms of like I said, it went very well for me. I was probably, doing fire sale prices a little bit because it was a weird event and I wanted to get rid of some inventory and just test it to see how it would go. I'm still analyzing the result of that, but it went well and I would totally do it again. I suspect he'll charge more for a table next time because it seemed to go okay,
Yeah.
but I would still do it again anyway.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I mean, just the fact that I think Ryan gets it, and the fact that they're not charging admission for people to attend, and I think honestly, I'm sure and there's costs involved and things like that, but I think he genuinely just wants to make a great comic centric
Yeah,
event,
yeah,
But the other thing I would say, I think just the amount of people that, because I kind of watch people coming by and they'll skip certain tables, but they definitely stop by yours, and I think it does come down to the minimalism because it's just different. You've got basically black, white, and red, and it kind of
yeah.
anytime you see a lot of colors on either side, mine included, they
It's.
yeah, it draws people in.
I hope so. I think this is something we were talking about last time when we were analyzing booths, and I was talking about it with the Making Comics guys after Fan Fusion. After Fan Fusion, especially, I walked through, and I remember I attended the last Fan Fusion just as a guest because I haven't done that in years. Like
As
every
an
time I've
attendee,
been
you mean? As an attendee, right?
as an attendee, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I just walked through and just talked to creators and bought things and tried to see that side of it because I haven't in so long. And there were a few ahas, but the biggest one was all these tables just run together. Like, they all look the same. They're all black tablecloth with a pile of shit on top of them, excuse my expression. And like all the creators, no slight to, like anyone, because I'm including myself, they all look the same. Like you feel like this is like you're walking by the same booth over and over and over. And sometimes I couldn't even tell where one booth ended and another began. Now yours is distinct. Yours, I mean, that's how I first discovered you. Is yours looks different, and a few like the Steam Crow guys, theirs looks different. But everyone else, all the indie kind of artist alley tables, they're all doing kind of the same thing, and that's what got me on the jag of I need a different colored tablecloth. I need maybe an animated sign. I need to stand out so I can snap people out of their zombie walk and notice that there's something here. While this table is super minimal, I do not want any pats on the back for this table. I will say it looks like something. You know what I mean? Like it's there's a brand happening. There's a consistency. There's a sort of a clarity of vision And I think that does make people curious about like what is this, and so that's something I want to continue to try to double down on. But
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I even the red tablecloth kind of draws people in because I assume I had black. I assume most people had kind of that
everyone
black
has
table.
black,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
Su
Yeah,
surprisingly, mine is yellow. I know
I think
that's
Not
that's
shocking.
surprisingly.
But I also think the minimalist booth is a good introduction to your comic too,
yeah,
because you know you're gonna get you're not gonna look at that booth and then open up the comic and be like, oh, it's black and white. You know, you're gonna
Yeah,
be like, yeah,
true.
yeah,
Right.
this makes sense. Like it's on brand for what you're doing. You know.
yeah. No, there's a consistency, and um, I think it's. I've just gotten into a point where it's again just distinct enough to not look like anybody else's table, which for is enough. I think. I do think though for next ASCAP, I have some ideas for signage, kind of inspired by stuff you're doing, Scott, with a little bit of the relief, like the 3D kind
Hmm.
of stuff you're doing. I think I want to play with something like that.
Which I battled the whole thing because I had one of my displays just kept falling apart because I built it like a year ago and I should have took the time to kind of repair it and stuff. But so the whole night I was just trying to fixing this thing. But so next show I'll kind of fix that.
Do we want to show Scott's while
Yeah,
we're talking about Scott's?
yeah, I can pull
Yes.
that up. So let's see. All right, so this is my display. So I basically brought three things. I brought my how to make comics workbooks, my wax packs in the middle there, and then of course my comics. And you can see kind of above like the two kind of uh promotions up there, the signs that I did. Um, like what Gary was saying is those are actually like sort of cutouts and reliefs, and they're like three dimensional, so you can't really tell as much from the picture there. But it's based on what I observed from what they used to do in record stores a long time ago, where they would get the promotions and they'd cut them out, and then they'd paste them on top of each other and kind of make them pop out and everything. So that's something that's a little more impressive in person. And of course, although it's kind of black over black, which even my display would probably, I think it might benefit from a different color tablecloth now that I think of it, because those X-ray glasses that's in front of it would probably pop out a little more. But anyway, so the basic display, bringing those basically three items, and what what I was happy to find out throughout the show is that each one of those items, they kind of had the same amount of interest between them. So there wasn't any, and I thought for sure just the wax packs would just, you know, outsell everything just because they're based on properties and things people already know. It's basically fan art. But that wasn't necessarily the case. I mean, I like I said, think I sold between those three things. Each of them I sold about even amount. And the wax packs so they were priced at that $20 price that we talked about, or three for 50. So you would save like $10 if you got three. And then which I don't think I sold. No, I didn't sell any. I sold a couple people. They bought two, but I couldn't get them to move up to that next one. And there's not a whole lot. I don't want to drop the price down too much on those, just because of the amount of time that goes involved. They're pretty labor intensive. But then on like my workbooks, those are 10 or three for 25. So that, going back to what Carrie said, that kind of brings it above the unless you just want to get two for 20, I guess you can. And I think people did that too. So that might be a little more proof to what Gary's talking about. And of course, my comics were five each. So, but one of the cool things and like I like Gary, think I did pretty well. I mean, I don't mind sharing kind of my numbers. I think I sold about, I think it was like a couple $100 um, for what a 5 hour show, which isn't bad. And then of course you got to subtract the $35 fee, and then whatever the cost of the the cost of your items, which the comics, again, comics were totally paid for. So any comics I sold, pure profit.
Yeah, I brought all my existing stock, though, to help the math, at least in my case, and I wasn't watching your table too closely. I didn't sell anything the last hour, I don't think. So really, it was like a 4-hour show.
Mhm.
So when you do that, it's like, wow, I was really doing okay per hour.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So and I didn't, like Gary, I didn't kind of go in it with too many expectations. And if I was really concerned about just making money, I could have not got a drink, and I could have not, but I was there to have fun, and I could not got the nice dinner and like snuck something in to snack on a candy bar or something or whatever, or eat before.
Right.
But no, I was there kind of for the experience. So but in addition, but for me, it kind of went beyond just what we sold there. I was kind of surprised at some of the connections I made there. So and a lot of those were brought in by the Make Your Own Comics workbooks that I got. So I made. Well, I talked to a lot of interesting people. Some people there were people like that were colorists, and I looked at their stuff and they were cool. So somebody I might work with on one of my client projects or something. But two kind of big inroads I made that people that I talked to there was Samurai Comics, which I mentioned is kind of, I think they've got like I think they said 4 or 5 stores throughout the valley. So they're pretty much the biggest comic book chain, I guess you'd say, in Arizona, Samurai Comics. And their buyer was interested in carrying my Make Your Own Comic workbooks in their stores. So there's, like I said, that's 4 or 5 stores there. So that's cool. That's something that's kind of, who knows, what that will amount to if that happens. And then the other one was the talent agent or whatever from Phoenix Fan Fusion came by and was talking to me. Again, because of the Make Your Own Comics workbook, and they're wanting to do more stuff that is attractive to kids and get some kind of programming or some stuff there for kids. So it sounds like I may, and I've said before that if I ever do Phoenix again, they'd have to have me out as a guest. They had me out 1 year, and basically that means they pay for your table and you get like green room access and stuff like that. And I said I probably won't return to Fan Fusion unless that happens, but it sounded like they were interested in having me out for that. So that's cool, because if you can get your table paid for at Fan Fusion, I mean, again, that's one of the big things you have to, because you don't make any kind of profit even beyond your beyond whatever time and effort and materials you put into your stuff until after you pay for that table.
Yeah.
So that would be a big hurdle to get over. So I know those. We can hear you kind of scratching away your Cintiq there, Corey. But anyway, so yeah, that was something, and I was actually quite surprised at a small show like that there were people, from like larger comic book stores and the larger comic conventions there. So that was cool.
It was cool. Well, and also this is always nice when it happens, and that's how I've met quite a few people. The guy who was sitting on my right, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. I think it was Galtham. We got to talking. There's these lulls, and you get to talking to your neighbor. Really nice guy. He was there. I have his books. We did a swap.
Mm-hmm.
Where like he's probably, I don't know how old he is, but I'm assuming he's about our age.
Mm-hmm.
And like all of us, he just decided one day, like, I've always thought about doing this. Why am I not doing this? And he decided to just start making, a little mini comic. And this was his first show. And he was, real excited. And it was really cool because he had friends there who were like bringing him food and checking in on him. They were so excited that he was finally doing a show and had a table and everything. And he was a really cool guy. It was fun to talk to him. That's always cool too. I mean, it's great to sell stuff and it's great to have a good experience, but I also really like to meet new creator who's excited to be joining the club.
Yeah, absolutely. And a convention like this is a perfect kind of entry point if that's something that you're just kind of getting into, because there isn't a lot of, for $35 for a table. I mean, how could you go wrong if you go and you don't sell anything? At least I think that's worth that experience. So
yeah, it's really low risk.
Yeah,
really low risk.
Yeah. We had so Dylan was wanted to know if I sold out of anything. No, I didn't sell out of anything, unless there may have been like certain of the workbooks that, because there's several different kinds. I might have sold out of a particular one, but I didn't really sell. I brought quite a bit of everything. But it would be kind of nice to sell. I'm excited to hopefully soon sell through my single issues of my comics, because I know once I run the Kickstarter, which I've decided won't happen until next year, maybe around March, when people are getting their income tax refunds.
There you go.
But once I get that trade, I don't think it's going to be really hard to sell individual issues. So I'm hopefully, and I don't know if I can do this if there's a Phoenix. Well, I don't think there will be a Phoenix fan fusion in between those. By that time, I
no, because it's I thought this year it's the week after Labor Day weekend.
Yeah. So if I can sell through what I have before I do that will be good. So and I'm kind of close. At least, again, when you run a Kickstarter, if it's successful, then those books are paid for. So even if I have that inventory, I'm not really losing anything. And you can always throw those in with something, or do a remark on it, or whatever. So there's ways I can kind of get rid of it or sell it too. So but between that, and I've got a few, I think, between whatever smaller little conventions, they do, I do hope they do more of these. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing something like this, like every, I don't know, even 3 months, or every 3 months, or twice a year, or something like that.
Well, and look, if you've watched the Artcasters, my attitude about cons is pretty public. But honestly, a one-day con is like my ideal. Like, there is just something about these multi-day cons where you're getting up and it's 8 hours or 9 hours or something. It's like, it's exhausting, and it's expensive to prep for, and longer shows are usually expensive even to get a table at. Like, these one-day things, whether it's ASCAP or like this Cocktails and Comics. I would rather do 6 of these a year than one fan fusion.
Yeah. And maybe they've already thought about this, but, and I don't know exactly the location of this compared to, we do have an event called First Fridays. That I don't know if I don't think it's in the summer, but if it is, it's not, a lot of people don't go because it's so hot. But once it cools down, there is a ton of people. And if they do one of these events on a First Friday, I think it would do pretty well. Because those are people that are just, a lot of people that are interested in just whatever cool stuff,
I think I looked into that a million years ago. I forgot how it works. Like, you can get like a sidewalk space, right?
Yeah, but I'm not talking about me or you exhibiting. I'm talking about for them to organize something at a place like this, close to, and there are like gallery spaces, and there's probably a number of buildings or there's something that they could probably work something out and do a convention like this on a First Friday. And just have a number of people in there. I think that might do well too.
Totally. Why not? Yeah. No, this was great. I hope it was, I imagine Foundry's into it, as long as they're.
How close are they to like Roosevelt Row? I wasn't really.
Not too far. Like, because I parked off Roosevelt.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's if they were doing First Friday, it would be a little bit outside of, I think, where everything is, but it's basically what's same.
Do you want to take 2 seconds and describe what First Friday is?
Go for it, Scott.
It's like a big giant street fair. So that area is kind of like an older area that's kind of been renovated. There's a lot of art galleries, a lot of pop-ups, things like that. So they'll have like food vendors, and they basically block off a major street, Roosevelt, and just it's a big fair. There's street musicians out there, everything from your street preachers to your like break dancers to they've got like they'll set up like little galleries inside of what do you call them? What do you call those shipping containers?
Yes.
Yeah, so just all that kind of stuff. It's just like a big street fair, and they do it the first Friday of every month. I assume in the cooler months. I think.
Yes.
I don't think they do it year round. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
At least I don't go to it year round.
Well, remember we
And
got
it's
stuck,
pretty huge. Yeah.
we got stuck by it once.
Oh yeah.
You know, because I didn't realize it was first Friday, and we met for dinner, I think downtown or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
And when we were leaving, it was zombie apocalypse in the street. It looked like New Year's Eve. It was crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's huge.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So there are people that will go out there. You could easily. I don't know what it costs. Like you said, you might have looked into it.
Yeah.
But you could easily go out there and set up a table and sell comics and stuff there. But
You
I
could.
think with a dedicated kind of area like that, I think it might work.
Yeah, I myself would not be interested in setting up a booth just alone, like just
me neither.
selling D versus M, because I think because that's not really what that crowd is. But like you're saying, if you could get some gallery or something that's right there that just opens its doors to host like what we did, I think that could work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's cool.
And then Dylan says, I've gone to Art Awakenings and they have a table at First Fridays. I'm not really. Are you familiar with Art Awakenings? I know. I had that's so. I don't know if you remember a while back when I had my gallery show. It was a while back, but I had a gallery show. Well, we had Ted on the show who ran that gallery, and since then he moved to Michigan and opened basically the same gallery but in Michigan. They just kind of moved their gallery. But we had him on. But I had a gallery show out there, and it was kind of like a bucket list thing, you know. Just now I can say I did a gallery show. But it was their art gallery was in that Roosevelt area, and it was on the first Friday when I did my event and stuff. I think it was on first Friday, or at least one of the nights of the show was. But so yeah. And then and Dylan mentioned Sundrop Studio, which I'm not familiar. I have to look them up. Are you familiar with them, Gary?
I just added them on. No, I'm unfamiliar. I just looked up her YouTube channel and subscribed though. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out too.
I did have. I don't know if you want to do this now or later. I had.
Oh yeah.
A con etiquette question I wanted to present to everybody here and in the chat. I have a strong feeling about it, but maybe I'm the a-hole. I don't know.
Was Scott screaming at people again?
He was not screaming at people again. No, he wasn't.
No, but I've been victim of the same thing, Gary's.
I can show you what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, go ahead, Gary. Pull up your.
It's up. Someone will have to add it to the.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Let me explain what you're looking at here. So this woman with what appears to be a severed foot, this is a booth. I don't know either of these creators. If by some bizarre chance someone does know them or they're watching, I'm not trying to throw shade or criticize her. I'm just like observing something. And again, maybe I'm the a-hole. Anyway, this woman's here. I don't know what that table was selling. They were next to you.
They had a comic. They had a comic.
Okay.
I didn't know what the connection was with the foot and everything, but
I don't know what the foot was either. Okay. Now, you see to the right of this picture, to this woman's left, there's the neighboring booth. You see these prints on the pegboard? You've got Pennywise, you got the Crypt Keeper, you got the thing, the spider head thing. Okay, those prints are actually merch being sold by this guy in the white polo.
Right.
And to me, this was poor con etiquette because
That
it
was
appears-
I thought she was selling those prints.
exactly, and in a way, to me, it's encroaching in her visual.
Yeah,
You know what?
absolutely.
Like her space, her shop. Like, I feel like this is reprehensible. Now, am I wrong? I mean, how do people feel?
I don't think so at all. And there is a possibility the person in the polo just wasn't thinking, or sometimes people don't make those connections. But yeah,
Right.
it's definitely, and I've been victim of that too. And I can tell you kind of what happened and why this is sort of unfair. So one year that I was exhibiting at Phoenix, back then it was Phoenix Comic Con, but same thing as Phoenix Fan Fusion, and it was, I forgot the name of the company, but I think it's like Xenotrope or something, or Xenoscope or something like that. They're them, and then also Coffin Comics is guilty of this too. Even though I mean, I've been to like some panels that Coffin Comics does, and they do have they've been doing it for a while, and they do have a pretty good business model. But I definitely don't agree with this tactic that they use. But so they've got giant banners that are double-sided, and so Xenoscope. You know, I've got my booth set up, and my booth back then was a pretty big booth. You know, I mean, it went, it probably, I mean, it might have been 9 or 10 feet high, the top of my booth, but they had they had even bigger banner. So there was the booth behind me, and their banner rose up above mine. So on top of mine, they've got their big advertisement talking about with the name of their company and their characters, and because of that, people would come by and they would ask if I have certain books, and I'm like, no, that's not me, that's them over there. And also, some people would come by and complain about like the books to me, and I'm like, that's not me, and like that's yeah.
No, this is well, and that was my first thought, is like, this poor woman.
Yeah.
At least once tonight, probably more. First of all, okay, they're going to come up and look at these prints. They're going to be standing in front of her. They're going to be blocking with whatever she's trying.
That had to happen, yeah.
They might ask her about how much are the prints,
of
and
course.
At least once tonight, and probably throughout the night, she's going to say, "Oh, those actually aren't mine. That's this gentleman's over here." And then they'll be like, "Oh, okay," and they'll leave. Like, this is just lame. This is really lame. Like,
if you knew about this, and if you had, I would totally if I had like a side banner, I just put it right above that guy's prints. I mean, that would be totally fine, because
it's your booth.
Yeah.
No, I don't, again, and I told you guys at the time, I was halfway into my poison ivy, and it's like, maybe this is the poison ivy talking.
No,
but that's bullshit. Like, I don't, and I snapped this picture to talk about it. It's like, I want to bring this up as like, don't do this. Don't be this guy.
Yeah, at least paint your whole board so it looks halfway attractive.
Or like, why aren't these prints on the opposite side? Presumably, he has more prints on the other side, and he's just trying to sell everything. But like, no.
Yeah.
I've done I've done one show, so I'm not an expert by any means. But in this one show, I had a dude that took it a step further, and he would interrupt me with people talking to me about my art and say, "Hey, do you like books?" And they and then I saw him 3 different times physically pull people towards his booth.
Cool.
Grab them by the like shirt sleeve and be like, yeah, come over here.
No,
and
that's range.
I was like, dude, yeah, and he we work at the same place. So it's like, so I still bump into him sometimes, even though I was 250 miles away from where I live. Anyway, but it's like I had to ask his wife, like, "Hey, can you guys not pull people out of my booth? Like, if somebody's talking to me or looking at my work, would you mind letting them do that? Because I'm here too."
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
No,
and she would, it was bizarre. But it's the same type of mentality of like, I'm just gonna spread out. This show is about me, and it's
I
like,
want all the dollars here. Yeah. No, that's even worse. And
so weird though.
To extend just to show I'm not completely aggravated, Scott, you could be right. this guy could just be oblivious.
Yeah, it's possible.
But in case he is, in case somehow he's watching, or somebody knows who this, I don't remember who this is. Like, I hope now it's like, hey, dude,
Right.
dude. Like, if for no other reason than you're putting your, and again, like I mentioned before with Galtham, like, I enjoy meeting my booth neighbors. I enjoy meeting my tribe. I like to be a good neighbor, you know. And when I see this, it's like, okay, come on.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got
close yourself off to your neighbors when you do that too, even if there wasn't anything on there. But I mean, go ahead, Corey.
I was just gonna say, I've got the best short story about this. So, a couple buddies of mine, this is a year or two ago, we were going to the movies, and I've got a buddy who's like, he's like an Adonis, annoyingly genetic superhuman. You know, like he's just, you know, like he wrestled in high school. He's still, you know, he's almost exactly my age. We're like a week apart or whatever. And I'm like heading towards Danny DeVito style body. And he is still like a Johnny Bravo. Anyway, so we like walk in and it's assigned seating. And this dude is like full on man spreading, like halfway into each seat on either side of him. And my buddy just walks up and he looks at him. And he looks at me, and then he looks back at him, and he's like giving him like an opportunity to adjust. The dude doesn't move, and so he just leans down and grabs his leg and moves it over and says, "I'm here now," and sits down. And the guy had no idea how to react to that, and I thought that's maybe the best thing I've ever seen happen at the movie theaters. Just like it wasn't like a back of the hand nudge, like I'm gonna have as little contact as possible. It was like a full on wrap around the knee move. I'm here now.
Yeah, like, I mean, you know, you just have to just be a decent human being. Like when we were setting up, because we were kind of in the corner. And there was 2 ways in on either side. And I was setting up, so I had stuff in the way, so people went around. And I apologized. I said, "I'm sorry, you know, we'll move this stuff and everything." Or if I'm in the middle of setting up, the other person's not there. Sometimes I'll set stuff on the table while I'm moving things over. And if I see
setting up,
I'll move my stuff on, you know, apologize or whatever. So it's just being a decent human being.
Yeah, just like basic like considerate. That. Yeah,
but on the flip side, even and this happened a couple of times because Gary's over there, you know, and I'm kind of, because of the amount of stuff on my table and because I was kind of in the corner, I was just standing off to the side of my booth because there wasn't a booth in between me, right. So I could see kind of what people are looking at and stuff like that. So I was kind of right by Gary's booth, and you know, he's talking to somebody with a sale, and there were a lot of times where I wanted to just say, "Get that book. Yeah, it's an awesome book." But I didn't want to even with something like that, I didn't want to interrupt what he was doing. And then if I saw that, but you know, usually when they were done talking, I would say, "You made a great choice." Yeah,
which I appreciated, by the way.
Yeah,
that was nice.
So even if you have good intentions, sometimes it's best just to let things play out. You know.
Yeah, there is I thought this example that I showed, and Corey's example for sure is wild. Like that's a crazy thing where you're actually like interrupting, trying to draw people over. But
yeah, it was nuts.
That is, for people who have not tabled yet, in my experience at least, extremely uncommon. Like everyone has at least one bad table neighbor story, it seems like, but the vast majority of people, they get it and they're considerate and they understand. And like, there's this like, you know, you make your pitch to whoever's in front of you. Once they move on, it's kind of like that's that, and you let them like that. Now it's the next person's turn, and you try to like not let your stuff pile over into their table or get in their way. You know, everyone's pretty good. But at this point, I guess I've been doing cons on some level for almost 10 years. And like, you know, there's 2 or 3 examples where it's like, wow, like someone is not even trying to be cool.
So I just really lucked out then.
You lucked out. Yeah, that's why that might be one of the most extreme examples. Though Scott Loss had some story recently about it. San Diego where the neighbors were like not letting people cross behind them. You know, like it was one of those things where if you're trying to get out, they had piled up so much stuff that you couldn't get through that way. And it's like the closer way to get out from behind the tables, like, or it's something like that, where it actually came to like heated conversation with which makes for a long con. That's a long convention if you're arguing with your neighbor. But
yeah, I mean, sometimes you'll get the carnival barker and stuff like that. But I think what Corey's talking about is even a step up from that.
That's wild. That's pretty extreme. Yeah.
Yeah, it was years ago, so I'm hoping I didn't exaggerate it in my mind, but the feeling that I had as I left was like, that guy, like it's like the level of social awareness that you totally lack, you know, just like the basic social contract of understanding that other people are human beings, that you are not like right. the central character, you know, like we my daughter and I jokingly mock something of Her Generation where they talk about main character moments, and it's basically like a 14-year-old will like stop and stare off into the distance, and then sometimes they'll like play a song on their phone and kind of like whisper, like, take a picture of me, I'm having a main character moment, you know. It's like, imagine not being sarcastic and just feeling that is your life.
Right.
And that's this dude. I was just like, do you not see, like, and he was also, he had written a book and he was in Artist Alley. He had written a prose novel and he was in Artist Alley, and was bragging to the artists on either side and across from him about how little he paid somebody to paint the thing, paint the cover. And I was like, you like the lack, like be excited about that if you want, you know. I was about to start calling names, but anyway, like, be whatever, but like also look around you and say, I'm talking to people who would charge real money because this is their job and their skill set. And I am like bragging about taking advantage of somebody because they live in a third world country. Like the whole time I was just like, this guy thinks that he is the main character of everyone's story. Anyway, I'll stop talking. But yes, Gary, I think that type of situational lack of awareness it's the same type of thing as like people that just blow through red lights because screw everybody else, or you know, it's just like everybody else can adjust their life to my wants and needs. I'm going to hang my poster up on your side of the booth and screw you, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, or people that cut in line because they're in a hurry. It's like, we don't exist as well. Like what, you know, like what, I don't know. All of that. Oh, all right, I'm done. I'd forgotten about that dude, but I was just at a meeting with him.
Last week. He remembers?
Oh, I don't. I think he thinks we're the best of pals. I think he thinks that we are, or at the very least that I am in awe of his sales prowess or something. Because that's
that guy really he hustles. He really hustled that whole con.
Yeah, and that's what he teaches. Those are the classes that he teaches.
Great.
So anyway, so he's killing it.
Good for him.
Killing it.
Bless his heart.
Anyway. Yeah, good stuff.
So yeah, if you haven't exhibited at cons, there's some advice. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't be whoever that is.
There's some basic consideration. So
yeah, it's not hard. It's not hard.
But no, in summary, it was it really was worth it. And now I think the ASCAP is usually like late March. I think they've already announced the date for the next one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So I have until then to kind of figure out, like, that will be the first time I really try some new things with the booth. It may not be dramatic, but something. I would like to try something. And
Do we know if Scott and Keith are planning on going again, or because I mean,
I
I think it was kind of we kind of talked about the last one. I think it was a little bit of maybe a little bit of an off year, but I
yeah,
don't I still think there's a lot of room to grow and everything, and
I
especially
think
after what
so
we saw
too.
for this event.
I thought, I mean, this was months ago, so who knows? But I thought they both decided at the end it was worth giving it another shot.
Yeah, yeah,
So, and again, even that one, the tables are pretty cheap. It's a fairly for them. It's a little bit more of a commitment because of
well,
travel.
yeah.
It's not. It's fairly low commitment. You
Yeah,
know.
I don't something like this. I don't know it was worth it, even though I don't know. Maybe they could. It's possible to make as much as you would at like a ASCAP, um, but if you're going, if for instance you just want to come and you want to hang out with your friends or whatever,
Yeah.
and just, I mean, it's something cool you can do and make a few bucks too. But it probably wouldn't for an event like this. Probably not worth it.
Yeah. This. I mean, it's just a little
Yeah.
short.
Yeah.
And also, it was unproven. And
Yeah.
who knows what next year, if they'll do it again, and what next year will be like. But
Yeah.
being local, again, like I'll pretty much do any kind of one day show. Like
Yeah.
I'll give it a try if it's but this one was pretty good for me. I have high hopes for the next ASCAP because I had a great first ASCAP. Yeah, last year's was a little slow, but I think there is a lot of reasons for that. So I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic about the next one.
So based on like this show, ASCAP, your bigger, I mean, kind of what's your experience of sort of, I guess, especially like because we're coming back from COVID, where all the conventions were down, things are starting to start back up. And I think Gary, I would probably put you in this camp. Myself especially, I think we have limited, probably. I mean, we're probably not the best person to talk about because we don't do a ton of shows or whatever. So,
No.
But just I'm kind of wondering what you think the state of kind of comic conventions and what maybe you would like to, where you would like to see things go, or kind of what's your idea for like the perfect Comic-Con?
Gary would like them all to burn. That's where he'd like them all to go.
You know what? I do. Both for attending as a guest or like and just a attendee, and tabling, where I am in my life, what I'm trying to do as an indie. And again, as you said, based on like our limited con, like we're not like the Making Comics guys that are going to every con they can go to, so like I pretty much, if it's local, I'll go. If it's not, I don't know if I care.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
With all those caveats, I know my audience is enthusiasts. Like I can and I have sold to casual comic fans or even people who don't read comics at all, and I really appreciate those customers, the ones that like, I've never read a comic before, but I read D versus M, that kind of like, that's always great. But they're the edge cases. I know my base, such as it is enthusiasts who are really into indies and who are, just because they tell me this, a little burned out or disillusioned by the big two, and they're looking for something new. They're looking for something fresh and different and something they haven't seen well trodden by, the bigger publishers. To get that audience, ASCAP is exactly the kind of show I want to go to because it's being promoted among indie creators and in comic shops, across the valley. Like that's where all his promotion is. He's putting up flyers in every big comic book shop in town, and posting. The guy's like posting every day when a convention comes up. Like every day I see another thing, like, you know, ASCAP or Cocktails and Comics or whatever. He's talking to my audience, like the people that I historically have sold the most books to. So my dream convention would be, I really do feel, at least for me, again, like what I'm trying to do and the people I'm trying to sell to, the bigger cons like Fan Fusion or San Diego or any other, there's a part in, like, if you picture like the little evolutionary lineup going from like chimp to man, there's a part, if a con's going to get really big, it's got to start leaning into movies and Lego and autograph signings and Funko Pop, you know, like all this stuff that has nothing to do with comics and or indies and or my audience. So I'm kind of, again, I once in a while will pop into Phoenix Fan Fusion when the Making Comics guys offer to share a table, you know, like that. I will never go and buy a table at Fan Fusion again. If they want to gift me one, I would happily accept, but that's just not, and it's just not even feasible. And it's not at this point, the margins are, you know, like I'm sure I could make money getting my own table at Fan Fusion, but it would not be much. Where if I go to ASCAP or Cocktails and Comics or whatever, like you know, I get hundreds of dollars in my pocket, you know, from one day, you know. It's like, it doesn't even make sense. Why would I go to Fan Fusion? Why would I, this is me just speaking personally, why would I spend all day long for 3 or 4 days sitting there, standing up, and talking to cosplayers who don't even have a wallet on them? Why would I sit there all day and just watch people slowly walk by, and you can tell they're over it and they just want to get out of the crowd? Like, it's just a bummer. It's not a great experience for me. It's, I always have turned a profit, knock on wood, but barely sometimes. And I just don't, I'm not into it anymore. But smaller cons where I know fans and enthusiasts and the, like, people who are into reading indies show up, I'm all about them. So
yeah, I would agree. And I, you know, I've always complained about bigger cons because they're not so comic centric focused. And you know, I don't know, maybe that's just too much to ask for. You know, it's like
yeah.
I understand it. And the fact that now they're Fan Fusion and they don't even have comic in the name,
Right.
At least they're kind of, you know, they're not trying to pretend there's something that they're not.
Yeah.
So, but I don't really have that kind of feeling as much anymore because now there's an alternative.
Right.
Because I do think, I mean, there's definitely a place. I mean, there needs to be a place for people to be into their fandom, whatever it is, whether it's cosplaying. And I like going to shows, seeing the cosplay and stuff. And there's some really cool stuff like that. But I do think that the bigger cons should make an effort to do something to create more focus around comics. And maybe there's just not enough people out there that, like you said, maybe it's just cost prohibitive because a lot of people, they can't make money selling their comic there. So I guess in some ways that makes sense, but then invite people out as a guest, do something to kind of build that comic, because there should be some, at the big show like that, there should be something for everyone. So there definitely should be more comic stuff, but I don't really worry about that anymore because we do, now that we do, at least, and I'm talking specifically in Arizona, and I hope other places kind of, you know, take notice of this or are doing the same thing. But now that there's sort of an alternative, something that is comic focused, I'm not so angry at the big cons for not focusing on that anymore. So, and you know, there are some stuff they're doing. Like I actually interviewed to be the creative director of Fan Fusion, and I went through a couple rounds. So I'm pretty sure I was being seriously considered, but anyway, they went with somebody else. But in talking with them, one of the things that they were doing was in their program, they were working with a comic creator to to create kind of branded characters and create an actual comic within the program. And I don't know if they rolled that out with this particular one or not. But see, that's the kind of stuff that I get behind, because
Right.
they're at least acknowledging comics, and they're doing stuff with comics, and if they can do more of that. And it's really just it's an amount of it would be simple. And like I said, they did kind of approach me to do something more towards getting into kids into comics, and that's a step in the right direction.
That's
so good. If they pay my table, have me come out, but they could do that with a lot of smaller creators, just as goodwill, if nothing else. Because I mean, they've got to have they do have extra tables, and they invite people out, but maybe dedicate a little more of that to comics. And they do. I know, people like, do you know Eric Mingle? He was there at the show. He has Ocho. It's the longest. He was right across from us. He has the longest running mini comic in Arizona. It might be, maybe not. Yeah. I mean, he's got like 30 some odd issues or whatever. But he usually, I think he gets brought out as a guest every year and stuff that they pay for his table. So they are doing some stuff like that. But I don't know, more. Do what you need to do, even if it's not offering a full table. But find a way to like split the cost or do something just to get
something.
Comic people in there. Yeah.
I feel like, and you see more and more of it now, like people sharing Artist Alley tables, because it's just too.
Yeah.
And there's part of me, I know they wouldn't do it, and I'm not seriously suggesting it, but if you're going to call it fan fusion, if you're going to try and de-emphasize comics a little bit, and again, I fully agree with you. There's nothing wrong with fan fusion. Like it's an event that people love. Like that's cool. But it's becoming less and less a comic event, and therefore less and less an indie comic event. And if that's the case, maybe Artist Alley tables need to be cheaper.
Yeah.
Like if that's not what this is about anymore, why is the price going up on tables? And I think last year it was cheaper, but still.
And maybe it can be, that could be a simple, I don't know, as having a difference between, I know there's difference between vendors and Artist Alley, but maybe even separate it more where Tchotchkes is a different thing, just like incentive. I mean, just say if you've got a comic, I don't know. I don't know.
The other thing, and I've never looked into this, but it's become part of, you mentioned the bucket list thing of like, I wanted to say I did a gallery show once.
Yeah.
Something that I've been thinking more and more about, and I feel like it would just be an extension of what we're doing here. I would kind of like to do a fan fusion panel talking about indie comic creation, and pull together pull together you and whoever else wants to show up and just like talk a little bit and answer questions and all that kind of thing. I think, and in fact, I think I would enjoy that more than tabling. And I think it would even get you some customers,
Yeah, and I'd totally be up for it, especially if I'm going to be there this year. If Scott and Keith aren't worried that it's going to, the problem is who's going to man the booth, because if they both do it, because I could see like making comics Artcasters kind of panel.
That would be a great panel.
They may be concerned that they're going to lose money if they're away from their booth for a certain amount of time. Yeah,
especially if it's like. Yeah, an hour.
It's just a matter of proposing it, and you could totally propose that, and they would.
I think you'd gain fans doing that.
I think you gain fans, and you get new fans, and also the panels are. I think I could be wrong. This is at least how it is at San Diego. I don't know about Fan Fusion. The panels can be later than the actual floor is open, so we could do. Like maybe there's a way. I'll look into it. I'll see.
Yeah.
Like maybe we could do a panel that was like at 8 o'clock or something, and their booth is already shut down for the day.
Yeah.
And we could, like slap together. I think this is me thinking outside of the box of like, how do I get some of the fans? Because here's basically the calculating thought. The only people who are going to show up at that panel are creators or people into indie. One or the other. And both of those are in my audience. Like I want both. I want to meet those people. I want them to meet me.
Right. So, and on top of that, I mean, I'm sure you could find a way to record it and actually make it an episode of making.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, you just do like what the Comics Lab guys do, or 3 Point Perspective podcast, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you do an episode of your show live at the thing, and you take questions and you do whatever else, and it
Then
becomes a
that
thing.
promotes the
Yeah.
the podcast, that promotes the the books that they're doing. I would
Just wait long enough for me to have one issue out or something. I'm
You're gonna get on.
I'm kidding. Do what
We're
you're gonna
talking
do.
next summer, so
I'll look
Oh,
into
that's
I'll look
doable.
into it actually tonight and just see how that works. Like if you want to do a panel.
yeah, I would totally be up for that. But yeah, it's not. I don't think there's a huge. I think if you want to do one, you just propose it, and it's not a problem, So that would be cool. Yeah. Yeah, and I've been to those before, and so I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to actually, being on a panel like that. So
Yeah. We could even do a little like not a raffle, but sort of like an Oprah sort of thing where it's like I don't know, there could be something that people can win some books or whatever. Like we can make it fun.
oh yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I'm sure there's a ton of stuff you can do in that regard.
Jim, I see your question. The cowboy hat, you can't see it. It's hanging off the corner of this door over here. Why am I having trouble? Right up there.
So I mean, we're at 120. So is there anything else that you wanted to mention about the show, or again, our vision for what kind of we would imagine that perfect Comic-Con would be, or any last minute questions from the chat?
I just very quickly, I'm going to second what you suggested before in terms of ideal show. Everything I said, but then also, like you said, if it was quarterly, like 4 times a year. Like if there was a show like this or ASCAP, one day, enthusiast focused, 4 times a year, that's where I would put all my con attention. Like that's what I would do.
Yeah. No, I would totally. I would do this show again in a heartbeat. I had a blast. So
Cool. Well, sounds like a natural place to kind of wrap. So for everybody who has been watching and listening, thanks for jumping in. It sounds like these smaller cons are where it's at. And Gary, real quick, where can people buy your comic if they would like to get one or all 3 of them?
The easiest way to find it, I'm on Etsy. If you search for Dinosaurs versus Marsbots, I can't imagine there are any other hits. But if you have any trouble, if you go to my Instagram, Dinosaurs vs Marsbots, just like you see right there, it has a link tree that'll take you everywhere else. I think the link tree is also on my YouTube channel, which is just under my name, Gary Hodges.
Cool. And Scott, where can you find your stuff?
you can find my stuff on my YouTube channel, where I've got kind of maker content going on right now, where I take ephemera from the Gen X era, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and reimagine it in clever ways. I just did a video called Slaughter Pops, where I took like Otter Pops, but I made a version based on classic slasher horror movie villains. I'm working up to a follow-up on that. So check that stuff out. Also, if you're just into making comics, kind of stuff we talked about, I've got a whole backlog of content on there, including my series, Making Comics 101, most comprehensive course on how to make comics that you're going to find for free anywhere. Check that out. Also, I've got a website, circworks.com, where you can find all my different stuff, including my digital products to help you make comics, my whack packs, basically all the stuff I showed in that slide, all my comics, Young and the Dead, Kids vs. Zombie Adventure Story, all that stuff you can find on my website. So definitely check that out.
Cool. And you can find my stuff at CoreyKerr.com. If you put a /email after that, it'll take you to my email newsletter, where you can sign up and get notified whether the billionaires want you to or not, and circumvent the algorithms. And if you want to read my book, which I am serializing one chapter at a time for free, go to CoreyKerr.com/book. And if you want to make sure that you don't miss the Artcasters, that switches around a little bit between 2 or 3 of us, depending on who is around at the time, and it's on different channels. The link is in the description. You can also jump into that, and we will send you a quick note about 30 minutes before we go live thanks everybody in the chat, and appreciated you coming on, Gary. And we will see you guys next time.
Yeah.